I got this recipe from a magazine. Now, the mail got wet in the rain, so some of the pages ran together. But what I couldn't read, I just improvised with my own little creative ideas. It's got raisins in it. You like raisins.
Want to learn from those that are taking their lives, their businesses, and their passions to the next level? Best-selling author of Master the Art of Connecting and professional speaker Lou Diamond is here to connect you to some of the most inspiring and amazing people on the planet. Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Welcome, everyone, to another spectacular, amazing, fantabulous, unbelievable episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting you to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. I'm your host, Lou Diamond. Today on Thrive Loud, we have a globally renowned expert on inclusion, leadership, and the advancement of people. She has keynoted or consulted at over 500 organizations worldwide. She is the inaugural CEO, which means the first, I had to look it up, of the Simmons University Institute for Inclusive Leadership. Along with two other incredible authors, they have written Arrive and Thrive. Any reason why she shouldn't be on the show? I think it pretty much spells it out right away. Thrive Loud listeners, Susan MacKenty Brady. How are you today, Susan?
Hey, Lou. It's so nice to be here. I'm doing great.
Well, it sounds like you're doing great. You're arriving and thriving. I mean, my goodness. And putting together, crazy book. You're the busiest person I've seen in the world, speaking all over the place, helping people with what is probably the most relevant topic of what's going on in the world today in the area that you are focused on. So I want to do a little rewind here, Susan. I do not want to go all the way back to the womb, but I want to go back a little bit enough to understand how this work you're doing now became your gig.
How this work I'm doing now became my gig.
Do you know, I love when people re-ask the question about this question because they go, I can't believe this is how we're going to start this show, because they're like, I've never thought about how I answer this question. Yeah. So that just gave you more time for you to figure it out. But there
yeah, for sure. That's like total, exactly what happened in my mind just now. Look, I have been, thinking about arriving and thriving as a leader and talking to other leaders about doing so since I can remember. I like to think big and make stuff happen and bring other people along and then talk to other people why they can do it too, So going back, probably I wrote about this in my last big book. I was prepared my junior year in high school to run for class secretary, Lou, and of Martha's Vineyard Regional High School. No joke. I came home, I told my father, and he said, why aren't you running for president? And I said, well, because Chris Herr's running for president. Anyway, long story short, he said, do you think you can be a great president? I said, sure, I do. And he's like, go run for president. And, it's one of these things where I was ready to accommodate, sort of the social construct, which was really lost on my father, but of course, very important to me at the time at age 16. And that had a formative sort of, imprint on me. And then the implications of when we put ourselves out there and step into our light and how that creates both light and shadow, been dancing around that for as long as I can remember.
All right. I like it. And you've drilled down specifically into two areas, because their leadership is one aspect of it, but inclusion is another. And this is really interesting because I guess you stepped up and decided you want to be included to be a leader at one particular point. So leadership was right there. Tell me about the challenges everyone is facing today that you're seeing. And I want to tell you what that everyone else is facing, that there is absolutely a huge push to try to make our entire workforce to be more inclusive, because it hasn't been, which has been awful for so many reasons and so many years. And for a laundry list of things there, that there's definitely an understanding that that's a priority. Yet for some reason, there's still a challenge. And that's what I want to dive into here. I want to just start off with a simple 3-letter word. Why?
So I'm kind of on a warpath now to make everyone understand or help bring people into the conversation. Inclusive leadership is a little bit of an oxymoron, right? When you ask people about the best leaders or their best leadership moments, what you hear is, I felt valued, I felt seen, I felt cared for, I felt listened to, I felt brought in, even though maybe I didn't have the position or I wasn't like all those other people in some way, shape, or form. And, it's the people side of leadership, with the joke being that leadership is about people. And I think the dilemma is, it can be really uncomfortable trying to connect with someone who you don't actually identify with. And it's also uncomfortable with somebody who isn't in a position of power to show up as their authentic self when they're not sure if that's safe, right? So I think, and I think this did it too. Like, our world is our Zoomified world means that we're actually looking at people and some of the stuff in their background and what they're choosing to show to us. And in a way, there's more connection points. And in a way, it's a little bit more like we're working with human beings as opposed to just human resources. And so leaders can't get away with faking the people stuff anymore, Lou. And that's everyone's craving for connection. I don't know, I was just talking to somebody, I want to know your opinion on this. I was just talking to some introverted friends of mine. My extroverted friends all know that we've been under-socialized for the past 3 years, but my introverted friends are debating whether, like, the pandemic was a dream come true, or if they too are now suffering. I wonder what you think about that, but I think that the ache for connection, for being seen, for being valued, particularly at work, has never been greater. And I think most people are like, oh, how do I do that? How do I really do that?
Listeners should know that I'm the most excited here because I've been interviewing a whole bunch of people today, but I was most excited to talk to Susan, not only because the book is called Arrive and Thrive, and not only is she just an amazing human being, but she knew to bring up this whole thing, because this is what I speak about every day, is helping people connect in organizations. And you're not wrong that you cannot fake it in this world today. And what I will say about the virtual component, look, the Band-Aid, we are communicating, Susan and I, between a Zoom screen, a 2D version, which has been, a fix to help bridge the problem when we could not physically be together. Well, today we can be. And nothing has ever been more prevalent in my career of seeing how happy people are to be in the same room together, to work in the same room together. This medium of working remotely kept us disconnected. And while it might have shined lights on lots of things that were out there, the inability to always be in the same room, it shouldn't matter who we are. We need to understand how to include others in there and to listen better. What I will say is that now that people are starting to get together, they're appreciating it more, and they're trying to figure out how to do it better. This is where we're at. And where I want to bounce the ball back to you, because you're the guest on the show. I want to ask this question, Susan. This is arriving and thriving today. My point is that at this particular point, you can't fake the way you include things. You have to be a real organization and be genuine through and through, because putting in policies doesn't work. We now are back together, arriving together, and need to figure out how to move onward and upward, which is thriving, which is why I'll pass the baton back to you, Susan. Mm-hmm. Susan, what are some of the key elements that organizations need to be thinking about, and top leaders and performers that can help get them there? What are some of the key tenets in your amazing new book, with your 2 other authors, by the way, who we couldn't get? We only got you, but we got 2 other authors in there as well. So did you like that ping pong? I knocked it back. I said, no, this is going to be on you.
Lou, you're a champion. I got to tell you, you're so good at this. I love it. So look, I think it all starts with stepping into your best self. And our first practice is investing in your best self. It's got 2 component parts. One is understanding who you are at your best, and the other is knowing how to return there, because we get catapulted out of our best self when we least expect it sometimes. By, macro events that we can't control, and also micro events that maybe we can. Be that as it may, I think going through life is tricky. And, then those funny things called emotions, no one wants to really deal with those. I certainly would rather think than feel. I think the investing in your best self piece, when we lead from our best self, we're in our strengths, We're adding value to others. We're called to add value to others. It's not about us proving ourselves. It's about us bringing our best. And we're experiencing some joy. And, that's my personal definition of thriving is, when all those three things come together, when I can do what lights me up in a way that gives back and in a way that I feel useful and vital, and my surround is my well-being practices. I'm taking care of the things that I know I need to take care of for me and for my crew. I feel good. I feel blessed. I feel really fortunate to be doing my thing. And so from there we begin. The challenge I see is organizational capacity to thrive really does follow the leader. And I don't love some of the things I see in leader behavior about what it takes to make it all happen, because I think a lot of leaders leave themselves behind, their best self behind, in service of the mission or in service of what it is, and give themselves permission to behave in ways that aren't actually very inspiring. So,
okay, so wait, I want to go there because I agree with you, and we're not going to pinpoint on certain individuals or names or people who are doing these things, but I do agree that there seems to be the gap in my view is somehow the top leaders have missed the boat often on this aspect, which is surprising to me, because in this area when we were all trying to figure out how to better connect with one another, how to get back together, how to be our best selves, these are all tunes and things that we've been working on piece by piece. We just hit the fast forward button a little bit over the last 2 years.
mm-hmm.
How did they miss the boat? Because a lot of them have. Some others have managed to say, we got to retrench and make sure that we're the real deal and we're as genuine as possible. But there's many more that haven't. And it's only seemed to amplify the problem more so than not. One, do you agree? And two, why do you think it is?
I do agree. And I think it boils down to two things, either ignorance or fear. Ignorance is, I don't even see it, and no one's telling me the truth about it. So I didn't know, and I'm not asking. And fear is, I do see it. People are telling me the truth about it, but I'm scared to say the wrong thing and be social media'd out and so to that, I have to say, we have to be brave and courageous, which is also another practice. Cultivating courage is not the absence of fear. It's the presence of vulnerability. And so if I don't say to my team, hey guys, I had a hard weekend, I'm taking a time out, or I have to put my head down and work on this over here, and I can't show up there. If I don't show them that I'm human and give them permission by default to be human, it's really hard to have a culture where there's safety to show up fully, or to feel like I can step in with my full unique value or ask a hard question, right? So the truth is, to be a leader is, I think there is some added vulnerability when it's in this environment, because it's all recorded now, it's all like trackable. And so, when leaders are like, what if I say the wrong thing? Here's what I do, Lou. I don't know what you do. I say, I'm really sorry. My intention was this. My impact was this. I see the gap. I'm sorry. Here's a redo. Here's why I'm human, right? Like, so it's an invitation to be human.
Well, actually, I think there's another way about that. Instead of doing the fix at the back end, lead with the table setting, if you would. Lead with I'm going with the best intentions here as I address this matter, and let me tell you where we're coming from. Because why they don't do that more often, and that is where actually the problem is, because then I understand that in isolation, whatever you take, and you could take a soundbite out of anybody, it could be plucked, dissected, analyzed, and ripped apart. But when you set the tone at the top of it versus having to make up for it in the back, because all they'll start asking for you at the end, if you're making things up, is that a real apology, or is that actually what this person really thinks? But if they didn't set the table at the beginning and basically said, here's my best intentions, this is what I'm trying to achieve, I understand that I might not always say the right thing, let me share with you where I'm going to go, they'd be better off. What do you think?
I think it comes down to modeling learning. I get asked a lot, like, oh gosh, when the book became a bestseller, Wall Street Journal bestseller, it's like, oh, how do you feel about it? It's like, look, I'm really proud of it, and I'm learning and growing. And because there's no arrival at thriving, in my opinion, I think thriving is a practice. I think we arrive and thrive over and over and over in our life, that means that, I'm looking around and scanning the horizon and think, what do I have to learn now? Who am I going to learn from when I connect on these awesome podcasts? Where am I called to serve? Right. I'm still going. And so if that's what's true, then I'm not going to look down my nose or ignore or belittle. I'm going to be super curious and pay attention. I mean, I think that's part of the leadership responsibility.
I have had many authors on this program, Susan. And I've also had the triumvirate of authors, even had 4 at one point, which was a podcasting disaster. I'll never try to do that one again. But I do want to ask this question. Compiling the message and the ideas with your other partners in this book, what was that process like for you guys? How did you guys work together? What was it like?
Yeah. So I played sort of lead because if you checked out, Janet Foudy is the executive chair at Deloitte. She's running a massive organization. Lynn Perry-Wooten stepped in to preside over a university during a pandemic, impossibly hard. My job at the Institute for Inclusive Leadership was in part to create meaningful work for, in this case, women who, by all accounts, maybe have arrived in some positional experience. And then no sooner do we find out that we still need support. We still need dialogue. We still need tools and practices. The practices in Arrive and Thrive are, in my opinion, for anyone. I don't really care how you identify. There are things like authenticity and courage and, inspiring a bold vision, leading healthy teams. We arrived at those practices during a lot of conversations about what we've learned. And Janet doesn't like, I say this all the time. And I also say Janet doesn't like when I say, but I'm going to tell you anyway, between the three of us, we have 85 years of leadership experience, leading and studying leadership and working with leaders. And so it was really cool to honor our own wisdom at first, then go to the research and interview 24 sitting CEOs. Mostly women, which was really wild. And then kind of look at what we had and fine tune it. Look, there's a first author for everything. We took turns. Janet was really hot on authenticity and vision. Lynn's research is about crisis leadership and resilience. Fostering resilience is one of our practices. I've been thinking a lot about courage and specifically how to manage oneself. Especially when, we get annoyed and the higher up, this, the higher positional power you have, the more power you have, the less people tell you the truth and the harder they laugh at your jokes. And so we got to be careful with how our world order, what we perceive. Right. So it was a true collaboration. It was a true collaboration. I think going back and forth with the distillation of what's out there was really fun. It was like intellectual ping pong. It's like, do we want to include this set of research or this set of, I want to include it all, but honing it down. It was really, it was harder. My last book was by myself. Let's be clear. It's easier to write a book by yourself. It's not necessarily a better outcome though. I'm kind of convinced collaborations are pretty cool.
So by the way, in my previous life in the consulting world, Janet Foudy and I overlapped. So we do know each other. So please send her my best when the next time you chat with her.
I will.
We'll make sure she gets this episode.
Yeah.
And now what I do want to ask, because there's something that happens in the writing process. There's a gift. A gift is given to the readers who get a chance to benefit from something that probably wasn't even initially conceived of when the book started to become an idea and then come to life. And then there's a gift to the authors. I'm only going to ask your gift in this particular case. What was that in both instances?
I needed to be reminded that I needed to be reminded about all of these practices. I needed tools of all the practices. And I would say it's hard. The biggest gift, well, that's not fair. I'd say
one gift. Okay.
Yeah.
How about the biggest? A gift.
Probably the greatest gift is really being reminded of what I feel like is my purpose, and which is to eradicate harshness. In other words, to help people love more and better. And I think that to do that at work without talking about necessarily love means we got to start in our own mind. And I've been at that for a really long time, namely because I needed it. And to go out and spread the word about what does it mean to return to a place of compassion and kindness and respect for myself and for others, and not accept any treatment below the lines of respect, and not allow myself to come across in a way that could be perceived as disrespectful, regardless of what's happening in the context of the situation. The reminder of all of that and being able to have the gift to talk to leaders about that. I mean, wow. Executives need to engage in this. We all need to. And because it's an imperfect science, because it's, people are subjective, feelings are subjective. And so we can't have inclusion at work. We can't have, innovative cultures. We're not going to see a lot of engagement with our employees. We're going to not see the stop to the great defection, the great resignation, if we don't each see that our individual role is in and of itself a practice of returning to our best self. And the gift for me is I talk about this every day, which helps me with my muscle building of doing the same thing. It's like this, what it's like, because I bet you'd say the same thing when you talk about thriving and you think about thriving and you help other people think about what that means for themselves. You're like on to do it for yourself, right?
Well, you're nailing the key point here, and here it is. Susan, you and I we're gonna take the practices that we work on, the message that we deliver. We're gonna shape it, and we're gonna put it in a pill. We're gonna call it the empathy pill, and we're gonna give it to every freaking leader that's out there, so they know that they need to take it. Because that's really what's the key to all of this, right? Is that ability to stand in the shoes of the others that are there, not just their best version of themselves. That'll make them the best version of themselves. When they do that, they'll have that perspective that isn't the me, it's the we. And things will get a little bit clearer and better, and just by default, going
human
from
beings
that
versus
stance.
Human resources, Lou. I think reminding you can. We all have worked with the wrong resource, okay? And we can hold the human being in warm regard while we make shifts around resources. I believe, and it's empathy first leadership, just like you said. Yeah.
It's like I'm looking in the mirror, but at a much, much more attractive version when I get to chance to look at Susan here. All right. So
on my podcast, I want to hear everything you have to say. I'm like, I have to hold back from asking my podcast interviewers questions. It's annoying to them. And
I forgot to do that. The listeners need to know that I give kind of like a little bit of, all right, here's how the show is going to go. This is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to go through. But I should always add, for people who host podcasts like Susan, I need to let them know that they're not in the host chair; they're in the guest chair. They can let go. They can be the guest and be the star, which she is. So we'll do that. I promise. I'll come back. We have a lot to talk about, you and I. So this is good stuff. But what I do want to do is kind of pull a layer back and get people a chance to see you a little bit more. And I love asking guests this question, and I am so curious to see where this one goes. Susan, literally, you've been arriving and thriving your entire career, and most notably, most recently with this great book and great message. And that's awesome, because on most days you're kicking on all cylinders and you're thriving. But we all have those days when we're a little off our game and we're not quite in the best mode we can be, in the best version of ourselves. Susan, when you are having trouble thriving, what practice do you seek, or maybe which individual do you seek out to get yourself back on the thriving track?
I have no shortage of returning to your best self tools, Lou. And it ranges from, moving my body to breathing to, inspirational cards. I don't care how dorky my teenage girls think they are, but I sometimes do them with them, and they're reluctant, but they kind of think they're cool.
No, you're still dorky. You're still dorky. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I understand that. I get it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I have a really cool, expansive tribe of people in my orbit who I wish I could keep up with regularly. And what I notice is we're just not meant to go it alone. I don't care what it is. And so I've got some trusted angels in my life who I can call when I need a lift, or who just can remind me that I'm human too, and that it's okay. We all have bad days. I feel better when I drink more water and less wine. I feel better when I move my body. I feel better when I get fresh air. And then most importantly, if it's a really urgent situation, I will find a sunset because I am a sunset chaser. And there's something about the sun rising and setting every day that just puts life in perspective. Okay. And it's beautiful.
That's awesome. Let's do the admin part of the show. Susan, share with the listeners all the places people can find you, Arrive and Thrive, websites, URLs, handles. We'll put it all in the show notes, but it gets more engagement when they hear it from you.
So funny. I've been so social media reluctant, and now I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I have Susan MacKenty Brady is my LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook. ArriveandThrive.com is our domain for our book. InclusiveLeadership.com is our URL for our awesome work at the Institute for Inclusive Leadership. Any and all those two websites have all of my social media stuff. And I would love to connect with your listeners and hear what they're up to and how they're thriving, Lou.
Susan, are you ready to go down Fun Street with me here?
Let's go.
Okay.
Okay.
Share with the listeners what you shared with me is your all-time favorite movie.
Probably Love Actually.
Okay.
But for one, I want to redo a particular character, but for the most part, Love Actually.
Okay. Well, first of all, why does that movie connect so much with you?
Because it's generous in its appreciation of connection and love, and it's funny and witty.
Okay. There are 9 subplots in that movie, 9 sub-stories. They all overlap at some point or another. Which of the 9 is your favorite?
Oh, come on. Really? Oh,
you could pick one. There's always one. I'm sure there is.
I'm
not saying you don't like the others.
There's the Hue dance. You know the Hue dance?
Of course. Yeah. To jump. Yes.
Yeah. If I had to, I'd probably, if I have to, that's one of my return to thrive moments when I'm having a low day. I can just put on jump and, do a little jiggy.
His storyline, I actually do like. I like his whole storyline. It's not my favorite.
The pudgy secretary is the one that's like, no. There's all sorts of like passive aggressive, like micro aggressive, and she's not over, like, she's beautiful. I'm like, no. We can't be, that's not funny. Criticizing a woman's body is not funny anymore. I don't know if anyone heard
there was a point in the 90s that the British humor and American humor were very far apart. We were way more PC than they are naturally. And it's interesting in the world of how PC things are and how sensitive stuff is, how that's interpreted globally is always very interesting to me, because that's one of those places. I worked in London for a little bit, and the things that they can get away with coming back to the States was like, oh, we can't do that here.
We can't do that here. I know.
Okay. What was the thing that you wanted to change about one of the characters in there? I'm just curious before I go down the speed round here. You said there was something.
No, it was the like, let's find something to make that dynamic funny that's not disparaging to her body.
Yeah. The father, that has not aged well. The father even called her plumpy or something like that in one of the scenes. Yes. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. That doesn't go so well.
You want to know why women have eating disorders and they have body shame and all that? Come on, let's just, we can laugh about so much. We can still pick on each other. I hate an overly PC
You're right. They could have, they didn't even need it. That's
the point.
It was unnecessary. I agree with you. Okay. Speed round of Fun Street. Here's how it goes, Susan. Susan's arrived, by the way. She smiles all ear to ear and she's like, ready for this. What's coming next? I'm going to ask you something. I want the first thing that comes to your mind. These are things that lift you up, motivate you, make you feel good. They basically make you thrive. You ready?
Yep.
Of late, a song that you love to listen to or one that pumps you up.
I need to listen to a better song. I just went to the Paul McCartney concert.
Okay.
And loved, well, that was just in the name of like wild fun.
That would be lately. So that's okay. That would qualify if you have.
Okay. All right. Lately. Let's do that.
Well, what was the song? No, what was the song that you?
Oh God, now you're putting me on the spot.
This is a podcast. You are being put on the spot.
I know. That's so true. So I'll switch gears. I think that I have been still going back to Happy. I can do a little.
We like Pharrell's song. Pharrell's song.
Pharrell's
always good.
happy.
Yeah, it's good.
It's a guaranteed smile for me.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Favorite food that's not a dessert?
Oh, for sure, Boursin cheese. You know that, like, it's like fake cheese. Do you know about Boursin?
I do.
Okay. I'm not even, this is like a regular. You wouldn't find, at any time pop over, I'm going to have crackers and Boursin ready to go. It's like a dinner.
Favorite dessert?
Favorite dessert, chocolate. It can be anything chocolate.
Dark chocolate. I'm with you too. I kind of figured you were a dark chocolate.
Yeah,
lady.
For sure.
An activity you wish you did more of?
Oh, probably like ride my bike to the beach.
Ooh, all right.
With my backpack beach chair on my back.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
An activity you wish you did less of?
Sitting.
If I could snap my fingers and Susan could be anywhere in the world, where is she?
Oh, any sunset anywhere, on the beach, in the sand, toes in the water.
We're not getting this. We're not ending this podcast without me addressing the map behind you. Obviously, Martha's Vineyard. Obviously, it seems like that's where you grew up. And obviously, I assume you still go back and visit and hang out there as much as possible.
I do. I try to get home a couple times a year. I don't live too far away by way the crow flies, and it's a special place in the world.
Yeah, I was going to say I was surprised it wasn't there. That's what I guess.
Yeah, one of my best friends from high school actually told me, she's like, it looks like a little helmet. Some people don't know. I think you should move. And I'm like,
my God,
I love the vineyard.
You look like Napoleon, actually, the way that hat is, right? It's kind of like George Washington or Napoleon. Oh my God, I didn't even catch that. That's a good thing. Yeah, we're going to have to.
I don't like that. So that's why I try to move to the side a little bit, although I'm a down islander.
I think I have another suggestion. We can move the picture. To the right.
That was her point. Ellie, yes. This one's for you. I will move the picture.
I guess the next time we see it, it'll be there. Susan MacKenty Brady, thank you so much for coming on Thrive Loud today. Awesome to have you on. Arrive and Thrive. We will put all the links in the show notes for everybody to know where to get it. Continued success to you and everything you're doing. Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you, Lou. Thank you for what you do.
And for all the listeners out there, thank you for joining us. And until next time, keep moving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Check us out on the web at thriveloud.com and follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook at Thrive Loud. And check us out on the Good Pods app at Thrive Loud, where you can follow, listen, and connect directly to Lou and all of the Thrive Loud episodes. Thanks for listening.